welcome to the Ottawa Business Journal's live broadcast of Back to School with uOttawa Engineering, game-changing projects that you need to know about. I'm Michael Curran from the Ottawa Business Journal. Thank you for joining us today. Great to be with you live. Nice to see so many people tuning in. uOttawa Engineering continues to be one of this region's most important producers of technical and entrepreneurial talent. Its graduates quite literally count among the most successful executives in the region's tech sector. In today's show, we're doing something of an annual check-in with the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering to get an update on the school, especially changes that are of interest to the business community and technology executives. As we start the show, we have a little surprise for the Dean. Last week on a different episode of Techopia Live, we spoke with a graduate of the School of Engineering, Philip Slatinak, the co-founder and CEO of Noibu, a very up-and-coming local startup. Philip shared an unsolicited perspective on the impact of uOttawa on his career.
Massive shout out to the University of Ottawa. Such a massive ecosystem for entrepreneurial endeavors. I think that university really skyrocketed my career personally, and I'm forever grateful for the experiences that they gave to all of us, actually, to Kayla and Robert and myself.
So right from the mouth of a co-founder, again, of an up-and-coming technology company, kind of demonstrates one of the points we're making today of the importance of the School of Engineering in the local ecosystem. And over the past few years, there might have been fewer students on campus during the pandemic, but the pace of change at uOttawa's Faculty of Engineering did not slow. In fact, I would suggest to you the pace of change quickened. There were new partnerships were struck, new training programs evolved, key projects advanced. Plus, those contemplating a career change or advancement, U of O Engineering offers micro-credentials, certifications, graduate programs. And as work from home trend continues, uOttawa Engineering invites the business community to use its collaboration spaces. So we're talking about all of this today. I think it's going to be a really engaging show. I just want to remind everyone before we kick off and introduce our guest, the Dean of the School of Engineering, that you can ask your questions. So we're going to have an interactive component to the show. That's going to happen sometime around 12:25 or so. But please don't be shy. We'll be watching social media for your questions. So as we build up here, let's meet the Dean. Please welcome Jacques Beauvais. Hello, Jacques.
Hi, Michael. Thank you very much. And thanks for that clip from one of our graduates. This is the reason we exist, to be able to make sure that they can get the right launch for their careers.
Yeah, it truly must feel good to hear kind of a unsolicited testimonial like that. And speaking of feeling good, hey, it's back to school time, Dean. And hopefully we're post-pandemic, so that certainly means there's a lot more students on campus. How are things looking at the school?
Well, we have to line up to get a coffee at the Tim Hortons once again in the Faculty of Engineering. But yeah, it's actually, we had welcome week last week, and it was a massive return to campus because usually we welcome 1,200 new students in first year, but for many of our students in second and third year, this was their first time on campus. So we were looking at close to 3,500 students just in the faculty coming in for the first time. And so it was intense. It was exciting to see the students in the hallway. It was weird to have students stopping me in the hallways and saying hello. It was a great experience. It's been really exciting.
And I'm not going to drift off topic here, but did I see some news footage of your engineers carrying couches? Is that what they do?
Well, that's an annual tradition where they have, it's called the couch carry. Okay. And the Engineering Student Society always organizes that. And they go around, and I think it's a game where they actually score points for photos with different backgrounds. So I always tell them not to drop the couches in the Rideau Canal, but it was nice to see that come back once again. It's been 3 years since we haven't seen that. It was exciting.
It's all part of the learning experience that goes beyond the classroom.
More than that, this time, a lot of these students have not been connected in person with their colleagues. So all of the activities that were happening last week, it also, I told them, and you usually don't do that, but make friends, meet your colleagues, and start making some connections. And it was also exciting because we were really encouraging them to be part of our competitive engineering teams and the different clubs. And we know that students who are heavily engaged in the competitive teams, whether it's a rocketry or the electric vehicles, the drones, because it makes a difference for them for the success of their studies.
Well, that's great. So listen, we have a jam-packed agenda, Dean, as you know. We're going to bring up our topics just to give people a sense of what we're covering today. But there's a lot to cover, and we're going to move quickly through it. And a reminder, we want your questions if you're watching live. So the first thing we're going to get into is new programs and courses at uOttawa Engineering. That's our first topic. Next, we're going to go to the faculty growth. The school's been growing. Third, we're going to cast our view more internationally about what U of Ottawa is doing in other parts of the world. A really fun topic. I'm interested to hear more, again, Dina, an update on this. It's the uOttawa-IBM cyber range launch. So we're going to talk about that. And finally, if you are a professional engineer, if you're watching this and you're saying, hey, maybe I need to go back to school, update my credentials, we will be talking about continuing education. And last off, as said, we're going to take your questions to wrap things up. So let's jump right in. Dean, the first topic is really kind of a what's new at the school. So take it away.
Well, you mentioned at the onset that things have been moving very rapidly, even during the pandemic. And that was my main concern, that our reaction, because it was so challenging on everyone, that we would just essentially batten down the hatches and focus on just maintaining things, keep things going. And so my reaction was to try to get the buy-in from everybody. And the reaction was fantastic to actually continue developing and come out of this period, or I hesitate to say come out, but at least reach this point where we're actually ahead of where we were. You know, we started doing a lot of engineering design, focusing on that and on entrepreneurship in 2015. But during the pandemic, we actually brought it all together, and we've moved from having initial courses, having a chair in engineering design, then a center for entrepreneurship and engineering design, and launching the new STEM complex, where the entire ground floor of this largest building on campus is devoted to design labs for the students, where they can take any good idea that's meeting a need or a crazy idea that they have and turning into an actual product, an actual idea, launching their company, working with clients. And so now we've created the School of Engineering Design and Teaching Innovation. So we've brought together the programs, the facilities. We've hired new professor specialists in the area of engineering design, and we've brought them all together under the new School of Engineering Design and Teaching Innovation. So that was one big first step. We also have a lot of programs that we've added to over the last year, the last several months. We've always had an engineering management program on campus, and we knew that many of our alumni who are already working in an industry, they were keen to develop their management skills in the engineering context. So we developed an online program. We worked with KeyPath Education, and we've developed an online engineering management program. And the new School of Engineering Design, Teaching, Innovation has become the home of these multidisciplinary programs. We do in engineering management, of course, in partnership with the Telfer School of Management. But for engineering, the home of that is in the new school, and it's allowed us to really develop new opportunities. We have another multi-faculty program, which is called Digital Transformation and Innovation. Students coming from different backgrounds who really want to work at the limits of digital transformation, where it can bring in multidisciplinary expertise. And we've developed UX design under that program. We've brought in data science. Again, it's found a very dynamic home in the new School of Engineering Design and Teaching Innovation. And the next facet of that is that now we know that a lot of young people, sometimes they see engineering and even computer science as being something that they're not entirely comfortable or sure that they want to engage into that. The bar is high, and they know this. So we've really sat down and we've developed what's called, it's a brand new program. It's called Multidisciplinary Design. And so it stands on our values of the importance of working in a multidisciplinary environment in teams which are not just the mechanical engineers or not just the civil engineers, but actually working with colleagues in business and even in the arts sector. And so this 3-year multidisciplinary design program, we're hoping to really make it more accessible. It's going to launch in September 2013. It's going to be open for people who want to develop knowledge in technology, knowledge in design, knowledge in teamwork, knowledge in digital skills. And we're really positioning that to open up the sector of technology to a lot more students than we've had so far. So that's some of the things that we've really started launching.
It's quite remarkable to think that you were able to do all of this and even try to operate during a pandemic in a remote way in that, Dean. And as you were speaking there, I'm always thinking that you're creating engineers and entrepreneurs. It sounds like you're embracing those entrepreneurship principles and internalizing them at the school.
We definitely are.
You're walking the talk, as they say. So good for you. And it would suggest to me we'll move to topic number 2. If all of these things are happening, the faculty must be growing. So give us an update on that.
Well, that's actually part of our challenges, right? During the pandemic, we have grown. We now have around 7,000 students in the faculty, which is a major growth. We have 2,800 international students in the faculty also. We're the largest international faculty on campus. And that adds to our challenges and for the challenge of the students. We know that having your support environment around you, having your friends, having your family is very important for success. And so many of our students who come here to study, to learn at uOttawa in engineering, to also have opportunities then to connect with the job market in Canada. It's an extra challenge, and we want to make sure to develop support structures to be able to help them. The focus is on their success. The growth has been to the extent that this March, we actually flew down with the president of the university to Cairo in Egypt because we had 109 students that were graduating with their Master of Engineering, working in the areas of AI and data science, in the area of cybersecurity, and in IoT and robotics, who we use what we learned about doing online teaching. We turned it into a remote learning program. This was at the request of the government of Egypt that's trying to develop capacity in Egypt in the IT sector. And so we developed this master's program with them. And these are very, very proud uOttawa students that graduated in the spring. We now have another 102 students going through the program this year. And why is it part of our overall mission? Well, we are helping to develop capacity in Egypt, but we're also, this brought to us over 100 top-notch students. And we're, of course, always talking about Ottawa. We're talking about Canada North. We're talking about the industry sector in Canada. And hopefully we're connecting we're creating that interest in their mind to be that there are opportunities in Canada, because the demand in certain sectors, we're talking about cybersecurity. We know the gap that we have in terms of hiring highly qualified personnel to support industry, support government, support all kinds of organizations in Canada. So that it helps us meet different facets of our mission. And we've grown the graduate programs. We've grown this online engineering management program. We now have over 200 students registered in that program. So there's been a lot of growth in terms of students, in terms of programs and activities.
I can see that, like, it serves a dual purpose. It's good for Egypt, of course, to have all these trained engineers. But as you're promoting Ottawa and Canada and so on and so forth, it must raise their interest or pique their curiosity about, what is the city? I need to see it. I need to come visit. That's
absolutely. And we see it in the way afterwards. They become ambassadors also for us. We know that there's nothing to grow interest also in the region, in Canada, in the university, of having top students who graduated and are proud and have had valuable experiences.
Yeah. And as we both know, immigration because of labor purposes is becoming more and more important in Canada. I mean, it's quite literally sometimes the only labor growth in terms of number of people that we're seeing these days. So having tentacles out into the world from a learning perspective, I'm sure will reap many benefits. Anything else we should touch on internationally, Dean? I know we might have covered it already in topic number 3. Anything else going on? I always think of, uOttawa engineering is happening kind of downtown and in Canada, but it's fascinating how you're opening our eyes.
Yeah, it's much broader than that. And
Yes.
we've been working with a university in Mexico for several years now, Tec de Monterrey. And there we have a lot of shared values, a lot of shared interest, a lot of connections. And we are really working on developing joint projects of our students to work together as teams. We have the tools now to be able to do that much more easily. We have professors that are really interested in working with their collaborators out in Mexico and to be able to bring the students together. You just think of even the technology sector, even cybersecurity, they have a very dynamic environment. We do too. And I always believe strongly that bringing a broader perspective, an international perspective, a global perspective to our students when they're developing their engineering and then technology skills, it just makes them even, I think, better tooled to meet the big challenges that we have in front of us. So we're very active in Mexico. We've been very active. Southeast Asia is a region of the world that's very important for Canada economically. And there's also a lot of students and researchers and professors and companies out there that are really interested in working with us. So we're starting to grow the partnerships. We had a visiting delegation from Malaysia here 2 days ago. We're working very closely with top universities in Singapore, where they have a mandate of having 80% of their students have an international experience. And again, that connection, if we can be one of those anchor points for that international experience, we can bring top talent here in Ottawa and work with us. So we're building those connections. Again, trying to look at team teaching, joint projects with students to try to create those connections. And we're talking about student mobility. So those are they've been really exciting developments in terms of seeing that our colleagues over there are really interested in working with us. They're interested in the companies. We've also had connections working with some of the industry partners we already have who have a foothold out in Southeast Asia. And we're working with them to develop joint training and research opportunities with universities over there and with students over there. So we're trying to help leverage those connections that we have for the industry partners that we also have over here.
Really interesting. And to the greater benefit of the local economy, I got to point out, Dean, we're going to talk about in topic number 4, a project that really interests me. And whenever I'm speaking to you, it becomes very clear to me that you're very outward focused. You're always looking to the private sector and public sector to some degree for opportunities around partnerships. And there's a really interesting one that I think is, timing's everything in life. And this one, man, the timing's great. I'm talking about the uOttawa-IBM cyber range. And this is a partnership that you have is about to launch. Tell us more about that.
Well, that was an agreement we came to with IBM last year because we're of course trying to develop the environment, the best environment we can provide for our students, for our researchers, for our partners. And there are all kinds of cyber ranges around the world. You can do, so this is an environment where you can simulate, for example, cyber attacks. You can learn to defend against them. You can train members of your organization in order to be able to be prepared. It's a very complex environment when this happens. It's not just a technical or technological issue. It can involve your communications people, your management, your upper management, your C-level people in your organization being under attacks. And unfortunately, as we see, it happens more and more often. So we need to be able to be prepared, and we need to prepare our students, and we want to work with our colleagues. So you can do cyber ranges virtually and just have a web environment. So everyone sits at their computer and they just go through the activities, the cyber attacks, and go through that. What we've done working with IBM, we're actually putting in place, to me, this is the equivalent, I'm going to show my age, right? So this, to me, is the equivalent of the command control room of the Apollo missions, okay? This is like
NASA, that's it.
Where everyone is there. And it's an extraordinary environment to do training for our undergraduate students, for our graduate students, even our summer camp students. Eventually we'll have activities for them, but for our partners, for reskilling, for developing new skills, for working with government, for working with industry. This is like one of the very, working with IBM, this is one of the top 3 or 4 cyber ranges in the world that we're going to have here in Ottawa. And it's an immense opportunity to really live the experience, but develop your skills going through this experience. So we're going to be working in there. We've already started very constructive discussions with, of course, IBM, who we've been working with over a dozen years, but also with many other industry partners. And it also provides us with an opportunity to bring something that's really important, which is industry certification also. You know that the higher education environment is under, I go to the extent to say that this is an environment under disruption right now. We can hear advertising from private sector organizations offering quick training in different areas of the IT sector. So either we see that as competition or we see that as added value for our students and our partners. And I choose to make it added value. So we work with Fortinet. We've developed industry offering the training for their industry certifications. We're talking with other industry partners who also have the opportunity of developing different industry certifications for their sector. So this is something we're offering for our graduate students to work with these partners, to open up, to add value to the training they're getting here, and also creating opportunities for those industry partners to connect directly with these students. So it's really, it's one of the key infrastructure, I think, that helps us address a lifelong learning environment from even before you come to university, throughout your university degree, to once you're on the job market, to once you become a higher level management. It kind of embodies the approach that we're taking to research and to training and to innovation.
Yeah, it's a great example of that. And wow, this is the perfect segue, because we're going to, in topic 5, talk about continuing education. And sometimes when we're chatting with you, we're talking about students, and people might be thinking people in their 20s, but in fact, the school is not only for people in their 20s. You might be a fully designated engineer and want some upskilling. We just talked about cyber training a second ago. There's all sorts of upskilling and continuing education, micro-credential programs. So give us a little bit of an outline to some of those, Dean.
We need to be very conscious of the fact that when we're training our students today, the environment changes so quickly that we're giving them the foundation for their career, but their needs in terms of skills and knowledge, is the tools they need to be able to use, is going to evolve rapidly and constantly over their career. So we need to bring in this lifelong learning approach to what they're doing. There's a lot of things that we do, and there are things that we do with industry partners. There are things that we do with the Professional Development Institute at the university. So the goal really is to say, what is the need in terms of training either employees, partners? What's that need, and how can we best address this? We've done it on a few occasions where somebody has come up to us and said, I need to develop this training for my people. Okay, said, let's sit down and see what we can do. We have we heard loud and clear a few years ago that there was a need for engineering sales from the industry side. We developed a training program which is really focused on the engineering sales aspect. Like I mentioned, we work with Fortinet to be able to offer the training for their industry certification around cybersecurity. We're working with some other companies in the telecom sector and elsewhere to do that also. We've reorganized our courses, graduate courses. So for people who are in the industry and have the knowledge in different areas, we've developed interdisciplinary AI, we've developed cybersecurity, and we're working in other areas also to be able to offer. This is basically, come and take one course with us. It'll help you because we really geared it to give you additional skills. If you take a second and a third course, you'll actually get credentials for that. We offer a certificate now. So that's why we're talking about micro-credentials and micro-programs where you don't need to do a full master's to be able to get additional degrees. You can come in and get a certificate with 3 courses that we've designed for a broader broader segment of the industry. The engineering management is an excellent example. The program works very well on campus, and we've continued that, and we're very proud to support our students who come in engineering management. But now we're offering the online version. If you can't come to campus, if you live in an environment where you need to make the work, the family, and where you live all come together, and then add the studying, the learning part, well, we can do some things online. So we're continually developing those aspects.
That's great. There's a great example. You referenced it, the sales one. So
Yeah.
sometimes people might think, well, why would an engineer need to have some business development? And in fact, we have on obj.ca, our website, some good examples of that. It's fascinating how companies have changed their entire trajectory because they've injected engineers into the business development process and satisfied their clients' needs better and propelled the company to further growth.
Yeah.
Pretty
and
cool.
when we talk about skills in sales engineering, it's not just somebody who goes out to do the marketing or the sales for their project. Everyone needs to be able to, in engineering, needs to have some of those communication skills to sell your project internally, to get funding, to get positioning. So these are really fundamental skills.
You talk about the intersection of engineering and sales. I think, of course, of Richard Labey, one of your patrons. I mean, my goodness, here's a man that put on his bomb suit, if people know the story, and went around the world and
absolutely
blew up bombs and was the face of that company. So listen, we have arrived. We're perfectly on time. Thank you, Dean. And we're going to get some questions. We got a couple good ones here, and I'm going to bring them on screen. I always appreciate, Dean, that you're not seeing these questions, but we're vetting them. So I'm going to have this one here. So Chris is asking, first of all, he's saying great achievement so far by the Dean. He would kindly like you to speak about the availability of funding for research-based studies. He thinks it's somewhat distracting to engage in research without funding. So any comment on making sure there's adequate funding for research?
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why just this year I brought together several people with different expertise to be able to sit around the table, to be able to do, I don't know how to say it in English. In French, it's une veille, to be able to be watching what's going on.
A veil, is that it?
No, une veille is monitoring what's going on in terms of funding opportunities.
Oh, okay, got it.
So because we work with all kinds of organizations, we work with the federal government, but there are opportunities working with the National Research Council. There are opportunities with the all of the departments working, for example, in the area of cybersecurity, but working with industry. The message we want to do is we want to be able to put up a much clearer picture, and we're able to do that in a conversation. We need partners, we need ideas, we need projects for design projects, for research, and then we say, how can we multiply that? How can we leverage what we're doing in order to be able to gain a lot more funding to be able to support the projects adequately? So that's also part of, we don't bring the funding ourselves, but we can paint a good picture of how can we leverage every dollar that we have on the table to be able to support the project adequately.
Understood. And we're going to have the Dean's contact information. So if anyone has a more specific question, you could follow up with the Dean. We have Stephen. I'm going to bring this one up to our producer. We're just going to keep with another question here. I'm going to bring this question up, and it's from Stephen. And is Cyber Range funded through ISED's ITB program for the defense procurement? So any comment on that?
Well, the launch of the project is really that partnership between IBM and the University of Ottawa. Those are the two organizations that are funding the development of the range. We are, of course, always working with the federal government, and we're working with all kinds of different organizations to be able to do that. We have ITB on the radar, but right now it's not a funding contributor to the Cyber Range.
Good. And we will bring up your contact information. We're going to have a last word from you just here in a second, Dean. But again, there were some other questions. I'm sorry we can't get to them. We always try to keep these shows fairly tight, but the Dean has graciously provided his contact information. If you've got a question, please follow up with him, and he'll do his best to get back to you promptly. So before we wrap up, Dean, I just wanted to give you a final example. You have talked so well about very practical examples, but one last opportunity, if there's a CEO, a founder, a CTO out there in Ottawa, and they're like, I want to know how we can work with the uOttawa Engineering, what would you say to them?
The banal answer, I guess, the cliche answer is please contact me. The challenge that we have is we want to work with the most pressing problems that the industry has. It's good for our students, it's good for our partners, it's good for the faculty and the university. But of course, to find out what those most pressing issues are, we need to engage in the conversation. And we're ready to do that. We've got a partnership development group within the faculty. We've got a lot of support through other offices throughout the university. Please give us a call, and we'll do everything we can to respond to the need that you have.
And we should point out there's some partnerships, Hub 350 out in Canada, and
Absolutely.
other things happening. So
we have the campus out in Canada North, and we have Hub 350, and those are areas where we can engage in that conversation.
So it's kind of interesting, right? Because not only can you engage in a discussion, but you can kind of leverage some of your space. I guess I just wanted to highlight that before we wrap too.
Absolutely. That's where the best way to be able to really do deep dives and discover what those issues are is to be in collaborative spaces, whether it's in Hub 350, whether it's in our Canada North, whether it's here in our design spaces, working with our students. And we can go a lot further and be a lot more the best partner we possibly can.
Well, listen, Dean, I hope people have heard the message. I think you've been very eloquent with it. If you want to work with the school, the door is open. Just step through and reach out. It's pretty cool that you get a partnership team. Dean, I want to thank you for your time today, and thank you to all your faculty for creating all of this talent and this economic impact you're having on our city. It's greatly appreciated by the business community, and good luck as we ease into the new school year.
Thank you, Michael. It's been a pleasure.
All right, a big thank you to Jacques Beauvais, the Dean of the School of Engineering, once again for joining us today on this episode of Techopia. I wanted to remind you that you can stay on top of what's happening, including news from the School of Engineering, by visiting obj.ca, which is our website. It's updated multiple times per day with local business and technology news. I also want to highly recommend you subscribe to OBJ Today. That's the name of a weekday email newsletter, Monday to Friday, that goes out. It's a great way. I know everybody has too many emails. I get that in your inbox. But this one comes in. You can scan it. You can see what happened today. It's very time efficient. And finally, of course, I want to point out that we have a big social media following, over 50,000 people. LinkedIn in particular is very popular these days, almost 27,000 followers. And of course, if you're watching us on video, just a reminder that you can not only like this, you can hit the red subscribe button. And also there's a little bell icon. And if you click that, then you get a notification on your smartphone or computer when we're live. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for joining today, and stay tuned for more from Techopia Live. Thank you. Bye-bye.